Forget everything you thought you knew about doing the right thing. This will fundamentally shift your understanding of power and morality. Why do the most hardworking, genuinely good people often find themselves struggling, while others who bend the rules seem to ascend effortlessly? Every single day you strive to be good. You follow the rules. You aim to do the right thing. But what if that commitment to goodness is secretly costing you everything? You felt it. That persistent, knowing unease when you've done everything right, worked hard, stayed loyal, sacrificed only to feel unrewarded, overlooked, or simply empty. You look at the world, and it doesn't add up. The kindest are often exploited, the most diligent struggle, while others seem to thrive by playing a different game entirely. This isn't a personal failing. This is a deliberate design. For too long, you've been caught in a system that defines virtue in a way that benefits everyone but you. It's because the world you inhabit isn't built on rewarding virtue as you've been taught. It was built to cultivate compliance, to train obedience, to reward repetition, not reflection. It's a structure that prizes productivity over presence and external validation over inner truth. The very concept of good can be twisted into a psychological trap designed not to uplift you, but to keep you in place. We are not talking about the profound, undeniable virtues like heroism in the face of danger, the unwavering courage to stand for justice, or the deep transformative empathy that truly uplifts humanity. These are indeed high ideals, indispensable and powerful expressions of our best selves. No, what we're about to expose is a more insidious, pervasive form of goodness. A goodness that, for many, becomes a mask for fear, a disguised form of cowardice, or a silent surrender to external expectations. It's the kind of compliance rewarded by society, but which can quietly drain your spirit, your agency, and your very sense of self. Today, we'll uncover the unseen price of this moral labor and reveal why, for countless individuals, the pursuit of being good has become a self-imposed prison. The insights we're about to share will challenge your deepest assumptions and empower you to reclaim a genuine, authentic form of strength. Are you ready to see the invisible chains holding you back and discover the path to a life where your integrity is your power, not your prison? Think back. From childhood, the message was clear: conform, comply, and succeed. You were given a path, a script: study hard, follow the rules, pass the test, and move on. You were told this was the way to success, to happiness, to being good. And so, you listened. You studied, did your homework, behaved well, followed the steps. Maybe you even excelled. You got the grades, the diploma, the job. On the outside, it looked like everything worked. But on the inside, something didn't feel right. There was a lingering question, a quiet unease that society never prepared you for. A sense that despite doing everything you were told would make you whole, you felt disconnected, even a stranger to yourself. This isn't just an individual failure. It points to a deeper flaw in the system itself. Modern society, much like the education system, was never designed to help you truly understand yourself or to cultivate genuine, inner strength. It was designed to make you useful, to train you to serve a system, not to help you become a conscious, self-aware individual. And that's the part no one talks about. Behind the lessons and expectations, behind the applause and rewards, is a quiet blueprint to produce workers, not thinkers, to train obedience, not insight, to reward repetition, not reflection. You were taught to remember, not to understand, to conform, not to question, to meet expectations, not to explore your own inner world. This isn't just about school, it's about how every facet of modern life, from our careers to our self-image, is shaped by this conditioning. The irony is, you may have become successful in the eyes of society, but feel like a stranger in your own life. You can fulfill roles, meet goals, carry responsibilities, yet feel emotionally underdeveloped, uncertain, or profoundly disconnected from your core self. Why? Because you were never taught to explore it. You were trained to function in the world, but not to make sense of it. Not to ask the deeper questions. Not to pause and listen inwardly. not to sit with discomfort long enough to uncover who you really are. And that's the unseen cost of this pervasive goodness that prioritizes productivity and performance above all else. It leaves you equipped to play a role, but unequipped to know if that role is even yours. It teaches you how to succeed in the eyes of others, but never how to define success for yourself. But there is an antidote to this modern disillusionment, a foundational understanding of morality that transcends human constructs and points to an ultimate source of goodness and justice: the divine command. This framework offers a compelling vision of true reward, not based on fleeting external metrics, but on an eternal, unwavering standard that guarantees fulfillment far beyond the confines of our earthly lives. At its core, the divine command posits that morality is inherently dependent upon God, and moral obligation consists in obedience to God's commands. This means that what is morally right is precisely what God commands or requires. Unlike shifting human opinions or cultural norms, Immanuel Kant, though not strictly a divine command advocate, argued that morality requires faith in God and an afterlife. He believed that the demands of the moral law are too great for us to bear alone, and we must believe in a God who will help us satisfy them and reward the righteous with happiness. So, if ultimate goodness and justice are assured by a divine, objective moral order, why does it often feel like the hardest workers earn the least, and virtue goes unrewarded in our present reality? You feel unrewarded and cheated in our present reality because of a particular understanding of good, which you have been fed. This is what Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, referred to as slave morality. He argued that this kind of morality, glorified for its sacrifice, obedience, and humility, is not noble. Instead, it is a form of spiritual slavery, a psychological trap designed not to uplift you, but to keep you in place. Nietzsche claimed that moral labor, the tireless work and sacrifice praised by society, is often a tool used by the powerful to control those who have none. We are taught that virtue is its own reward, that if we just keep our heads down and stay good, life will eventually be fair. But life isn't fair. Life is competitive, political, and the system you serve doesn't reward virtue based on inherent goodness. It rewards value based on control and power. This explains the profound contradiction we observe daily. The hardest workers often earn the least. The construction workers, nurses, delivery drivers, those who keep society functioning, often live paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, others, who operate in the domain of leverage, perception, and control, amass vast wealth and influence. This isn't a glitch, this is the system by design. Physical labor, no matter how honest, can be replaced, automated, outsourced. But control over resources, people, and narratives is scalable and highly rewarded. The lie of moral labor becomes especially cruel when we're conditioned to believe that suffering is noble, endurance is honorable, and that those who serve quietly, sacrificing without complaint, and while they may be morally upright in a societal sense, morality in this context doesn't pay the bills, praise doesn't build wealth, sacrifice doesn't automatically translate into influence. Nietzsche didn't advocate for laziness or selfishness. He challenged the idea that obedient labor is inherently moral, that to suffer without reward is sacred, or that virtue means submission. He argued that slave morality is born not from strength, but from weakness and fear. It's a belief system that emerges from those who cannot compete on the battlefield of power. So they redefine the rules, claiming that humility is superior to strength, obedience nobler than dominance, and suffering a sign of moral purity. These qualities, once seen as weaknesses, are reframed as virtues to allow the powerless to find dignity in a world they cannot control. The system praises you for being dependable, promotes you for being manageable, rewards you not to empower you, but to keep you from asking questions. It throws you a title, a plaque, a small raise just enough to keep you hopeful, but just small enough to keep you dependent. All the while, the true currency, ownership, control, power remains out of reach. This is the very essence of the unseen cost. You trade your authenticity an agency for an illusion of goodness that traps you in a system designed to benefit others. This constant striving for external validation, this adherence to a goodness defined by others, takes a heavy psychological toll. Carl Jung, another profound philosopher of the human spirit, called the mask we wear to survive in society the persona. It's not who we truly are. It's who we think we need to be to gain approval, to fit in, to be seen. And the more success, the more goodness you build on top of that mask, the more disconnected you become from your true self. You might look like you're thriving. You've got the title, the possessions, the followers, but deep down, you know it's not real. It's not coming from your core. It's not built on authenticity. It's built on performance. And because of that, it never feels like enough. You reach a goal, and the feeling fades. So you set a bigger one, only to feel the same emptiness creeping back in. This is the hole that cannot be filled by external achievements, because it's a hole of self-worth that needs internal validation, not external applause. This constant need for external approval turns your life into a scoreboard. And if you're not playing to win, you're playing to not lose. This isn't freedom. It's a prison in disguise. It means your sense of self becomes fragile, dependent on external symbols: your title, your bank account, your appearance, your follower count. Take one of them away and suddenly, you feel like less of a person. This is the psychological consequence of being raised in a system that never prioritized self-inquiry. A system that rewarded right answers but discouraged real questions. That prized productivity over presence. That cared more about grades than about genuine growth. The impact is real. We struggle with identity, purpose, and direction, not because we're broken, but because we were never shown how to look inward. No test ever asked, "What do you love?" No curriculum ever taught, "How do you deal with grief?" No school ever gave you credit for learning how to forgive yourself. Yet, these are the lessons that shape us, the truths that anchor us when life gets hard. Without them, we drift, educated but unsure, accomplished but unfulfilled. The goodness society praises is often just adaptation to a sick society. We're told that fitting in is a sign of maturity, that questioning the system is rebellion, that success means aligning ourselves with values we never paused to examine. In doing so, we suppress the parts of ourselves that don't conform, the questions, the instincts, the creative impulses. The result is a kind of quiet flattening of the human spirit, a slow erosion of what makes each person unique. The child who once asked bold questions becomes the adult who fears being wrong. The teenager who once challenged authority becomes the professional who never questions company policy. The learner becomes the follower. And the system calls that success. But is it really success if it costs us our curiosity? Is it really growth if it numbs the desire to know, to explore, to create? Consider the man who needs nothing. He's not chasing wealth, not looking for love, not trying to be seen. He radiates a quiet fullness, a presence that says, "I don't need anything from you." And in a society built on constant wanting, where every screen whispers, "You're not enough," and every advertisement screams, "You're falling behind," this man is the most dangerous person in the room. Not because he wants to take power, but because he doesn't need it. Not because he's better than anyone, but because he's no longer bound by the same invisible chains. This system doesn't just encourage you to want more, it requires you to. The modern world isn't designed to fulfill you, it's designed to keep you needing. The moment you stop craving, you stop consuming. And if you stop consuming, the entire machine begins to rust. This is why people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Because once you look inward, truly inward, you realize how much of your identity was built on borrowed beliefs, external expectations, and artificial desires. Society doesn't want you to meet your soul, it wants you to keep running from it. Because the moment you confront your inner world, you begin to see just how manipulated your outer world is. Machiavelli, advising princes on how to control a population, understood this implicitly. Never let the people feel whole. Keep them distracted. Keep them needing. Keep them looking up to the crown for salvation. Why? Because a citizen who is content, who doesn't fear lack, who doesn't hunger for praise, is a citizen who cannot be ruled. When you need nothing, no one can dangle bait in front of you. No promise can seduce you. No threat can scare you. You become ungovernable. To systems built on dependency, political, corporate, cultural, that is the ultimate rebellion. This man has undergone what Jung called individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. It involves confronting the persona, the mask you wear, and integrating the shadow, everything you were told not to be: your anger, lust, fear, ambition, wounds. The man who integrates his shadow does not run from it. He brings it into the light, accepting what he finds, and by doing so, he becomes whole. This man no longer craves approval. He is not terrified of rejection. He is not driven by the unconscious need to belong. He is not trying to be good by someone else's definition. He is trying to be real. And that is what makes him dangerous. So, what is the path forward? It is not to abandon morality, but to redefine strength. It's to stop confusing submission with virtue, and to realize that good intentions alone are not a plan. As Nietzsche argued, the solution isn't to destroy morality, but to overcome the morality of weakness. To become someone who doesn't just follow rules, but writes new ones. Someone who doesn't need permission to live with purpose. This is the path of the Übermensch, overman, not a tyrant or villain, but a fully realized individual. This individual walks away from systems that no longer serve them and builds something better in their place. They don't sit quietly hoping to be seen. They define their own meaning. They don't wait to be promoted. They create impact on their own terms. They understand the system, but are not enslaved by it. They know when to play the game and when to change the board. They understand that power isn't evil. It's necessary, not power over others, but power over yourself, your direction, your destiny. This shift from waiting to creating, from submitting to owning, is the path Nietzsche pointed to. But here's the hard truth: escaping that cage means letting go of something deeply comfortable, your attachment to being seen as good. It means being willing to disappoint people who benefit from your silence. It means being willing to stand alone for a time while you build a new foundation. This takes more than confidence. It takes courage. Because true strength isn't about domination. It's about authorship, about writing a life that aligns with your deepest values, not the values handed to you by a system designed to keep you docile. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming sovereign. What does this action look like after the awakening? After you've seen through the illusion of moral labor and stopped waiting for fairness? It starts with understanding that kindness is not weakness, but strategic kindness that's strength. Too often, people confuse being good with being passive. They think saying yes, avoiding conflict, and putting others first makes them virtuous. But as Nietzsche would say, morality without consciousness is just obedience in disguise. The goal is not to become cold or manipulative. It's to become conscious. To learn how to move through the world with both a moral compass and a survival strategy. Strategic kindness means knowing when to help and when to walk away. It means reading people, not just blindly trusting them. It means understanding context, when to speak, when to stay silent, when to act. It means you don't say yes to everyone just to be liked. You say yes when it aligns with your goals, your truth, your strength. Not every job deserves your loyalty. Not every leader deserves your trust. Not every opportunity deserves your time. You must become the kind of person who knows when to walk away when a situation is no longer serving you, and has the strength to leave. Leaving is not failure. Sometimes, it's the beginning of freedom. This is where true power comes in, not as something you take from others, but something you claim for yourself. Power to create. Power to say no. Power to build systems where you're not just earning, you're owning. Where your energy doesn't just fuel someone else's machine, it fuels a mission that reflects your values. This might mean starting your own business, building a secondary income stream, or learning how influence works, not to deceive, but to defend your vision. It might mean learning negotiation, setting boundaries, saying, "I won't do this anymore," and meaning it. These are not betrayals of your morals. These are expressions of your maturity. Because the truth is, if you don't learn how to play the power game, you will always be a pawn in it. But if you do learn, you don't have to lose your soul in the process. The key is to use power as a tool, not a trophy. Let your ethics guide your direction, but let strategy carry your decisions. If you grew up believing that hard work is enough, that if you just keep your head down, stay loyal, and do things the right way, life will reward you, then it's time to wake up. Not because hard work is worthless, but because hard work without power, without strategy, without ownership, will keep you stuck. The truly realized individual doesn't just labor, he sees the system for what it is. He studies it, understands it, and when the rules no longer serve him, he writes new ones. That's the difference between surviving and leading, between being a cog in someone else's machine and becoming the architect of your own future. So, if you're tired of waiting, if you're done with the myth that sacrifice is enough, if you're ready to think deeper, act smarter, and live on your own terms, this is where it begins. This journey starts when you begin living as yourself, not as a role, not as a product, not as a projection of other people's hopes and fears, but as someone who has remembered how to feel, how to wonder, how to choose. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of all. You were never meant to just fit in. You were meant to wake up, to unlearn, to return to yourself. The world doesn't need more obedient men. It needs more whole men. Men who can't be bribed, bullied, or broken. Men who carry peace not because they avoid the fight, but because they've already won the one that matters most, the fight within. If something deep inside you stirred while watching this, good. That's your signal. The work begins now. Stay silent. Stay dangerous.